Said about myself and marriage.
Yeah. So let's start again. For everybody who's new, well, welcome to Support Corner. If you were there for the past 15 minutes, we had tech issues. I cleared out the spider that was in my room. I vacuumed it away, and that took me a while because I'm really short, and the thing wouldn't go all the way top, so I had to stand on top of the desk, get it out, and then like quickly run away from the room so that it didn't come out of the thing. Um, but yes, so Zahraa is from Canada. If you haven't seen her before this, check out our episode on Life After Islam. And she talks about her beautiful story, which will relate to the whole marriage part that she's about to tell us. And then her journey since is on that podcast. But today specifically, we're going to talk about dating and toxic relationships, and I think the limitations we had as a Muslim, or the limited choices we had as Muslims.
Did we both leave? Oh my God, this is crazy.
Wow, my internet started working, so I was replaying all of that. Oh my God, I'm so embarrassed. I do apologize, everyone. Um, but Zahra, I guess just to ask you the question that I did initially, and sorry if this is personal, but are you seeing someone?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, cool. I am too, and the point of this is, I think personally, I feel like in my journey, I can reflect and go back and go like, oh, young Zara was definitely like not the right person at the time to be dating, or did not know anything about dating or maturity or communication or toxicity. So I feel like it'll be a good balance. I guess to begin with, what was your life like before? So I guess what was your life like before you left Islam in terms of dating in a relationship? So let's keep it to factuals versus this
Mm.
is what happened. But
So I was never allowed to. Obviously, I had feelings for like I've had some crushes, but I was never allowed to actually. I'd never even entertained the idea that I would be able to date someone. So I was very much afraid of this. Even like I went to a Muslim school. My mom put some teachers to keep an eye on me, and like talking to guys was like a big no. Um, so this is why like my first relationship was my ex-husband at like 16, almost 17. They took me to Lebanon. I met some guys and I chose my ex-husband because I was like, okay, this one is the least, how can I say, the least womanizer out of like the whole bunch. And I was kind of in a hurry to get married because I was given two choices, like you stay home and you get married. So I didn't want to just stay home. I thought like if I get married, I'm gonna have my life. So this is why I decided to get married. And all the guys that were like asking for my hand in marriage, they were womanizers. They had like you make some research on Facebook, you see their accounts. They had their girlfriends, and you see pictures of bed with like flower petals and stuff like this for their birthdays, and like it's obviously haram stuff that they're doing, like not acceptable in Islam, and they're proud of it. And then they wanted a pure girl who's never touched
yeah,
a guy, who's never been with a guy. And I was like, that's disturbing, that's creepy, and I'm never gonna be with a guy like this. So I picked someone who's like more my ex-husband, for example, even if let's say he dated anyone, he wasn't the type to like just obviously put it shamelessly on the internet. I'm not saying this is shameful, but I mean, from a
I think
Muslim
that
point,
was the young
yeah,
Zahra. No, I
yeah,
totally get it. So I had my first boyfriend when I was 14, but it was that puppy love where we would hold hands, kisses on the cheek, and then, obviously they were like Muslims, so my pool of men was small, and it was quite narrow. Like I had a long list of people, like I had a long list of checks that people had to meet. So it would mostly be Muslims. It had to be Muslims. They had to be Shias, and it was weird because I didn't like at that point when I was seeing other people and heartbreak, and then seeing other people who were also Muslims who didn't drink alcohol, hadn't been with other people. So we're all virgins, like not only at 14, this is like until my 20s, so 20, like early 20s, like 22-ish. Um, like, you know, I obviously did not have sex until like I was 22. Yeah, I was 22. And I had boyfriends, and I was like, no, I'm gonna wait until we get married, and I didn't want to go to hell, so I never drank or anything. But I think the idea of the relationship that I had then was kind of like, I was submissive in a way. So I don't mean this sexually, but like I mean this in a relationship kind of where I was like, oh, okay, this is what you need to do. Like, you know, you're a man. But then I think the person that I am generally, I'm quite assertive. So it was always a clash where I felt like I was being stubborn versus I was being a normal person that stands for their rights. Did you kind of have that as well, where you felt like, you know, you were, I guess, gender inequality in Islam kind of makes you feel like you're meant to satisfy a man, not just sexually, but like please them and their needs solely because they mean more.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It happened a lot. It happens a lot, but because I've had less experience than you, let's say, so I've had only my ex-husband, and I remember I was kind of very vocal in what I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yes, I felt like my needs were always secondary, and it was always about him and never about me. So
Yeah.
yeah, I can agree to this, especially in a Muslim context. It happens a lot.
Um, yeah. I guess for me, relationships then, when I was a Muslim, you know, it was very, it felt like they weren't real relationships because I hadn't had sex. And it was a big, I didn't know how big of a part it was. So I lied to myself, saying, oh, you know, my boyfriend and I at the time have a real relationship because we're not having sex and we know each other for the personalities we have, for, you know, the intellect that we have. And that was all utter lies.
Yeah, they say like, oh, it's
I
not
mean, I
always
felt
about
like
sex.
the idea was, it's not, but I felt like the plan was to eventually have sex and fulfill that milestone as well. So, you know, there were a lot of issues that I feel like we were kind of dancing around because it always felt like love will only happen after marriage. That's what my
I think
mom
it's
always said. She
very toxic.
said,
It's
hmm?
very toxic, by the way, to have this mindset that you keep sex after marriage, and it becomes very central to the relationship.
Exactly,
And you have a lot of
exactly, yeah,
expectations, and when it happens, it's not at all what you expected, and there's a lot of disappointment. Like
yeah,
you have this, especially when you're in a relationship for a long time with this Muslim partner, and you don't have sex, and there's this build up, and then you get married, and sex is like it's
that's
as weird as the first time when you're not married, but it's really awkward when you have these expectations and it starts like you weren't even allowed to even try some stuff before. Um, there is no experience. There is no trying to learn more about the other person. Like everything that is remotely sexual is left to after you get married, and that's kind of twisted. But I don't know if you have this in your community. The Shia, when you have it's called Kadbiktab. You kind of do the religious marriage before the actual marriage, and you're kind of engaged, but in a halal way, and you can
muta.
actually, yeah, it's not mut'a. It's actually like you're married, you're religiously married. You can touch you can hold your hands and do whatever you want, and basically you can even have sex. But this is a taboo. So even like in my community, this is what we do. We do the religious marriage before in front of everyone. We just like the religious leader is there, and he asks like, "Do you want to marry this guy?" He asks him if he wants to marry me, and I say
Oh,
yes. So we're actually married, but we just didn't have the ceremony. Like we didn't have like the white dress and everything. But even if we had this, it's not allowed to have sex, to actually have sex, because if I end up being pregnant, that's like a big taboo. I don't know why
yeah.
everyone is against it.
I mean, I feel like a few people maybe within the community had that for visa purposes. My family and I, we were just engaged, muta, which is temporary marriage, and then you get married, and then the nikah, and like everything happens in like one night. But definitely, I feel like that expectation building of when you finally have sex is quite big. But for the longest time, we were never taught in school, and I studied in Tanzania in an Islamic school. We were never taught in school what sex was. We were only taught anatomy, which was body parts. Nobody ever said how it gets in, what happens. I had read that all through magazines when I was like 16, or my boyfriends kind of talked about it, but we're like, oh, of course we're not going to do it. We're going to wait until marriage. Were you ever given any sex ed classes?
We're not allowed, basically, we're not allowed to talk about like sex and all of this stuff. But we had a teacher. She was very secular, and we didn't know this. So one day she was like, "I'm gonna give you a sex ed class, whether the director and the headmaster likes it or not. I'm gonna give it to you." So she asked for the guys to just leave the classroom. She had us women, the girls, and she basically explained to us everything, even like contraceptions and all of everything.
I didn't know any
And
of
then
that.
she had, yeah, and then she took the guys in and she gave them a lesson for them. And I think that was like the best teacher that I had. She's a biology teacher. I don't know why she decided. Like, I think one day she was like, "That's ridiculous. Why are they not allowed to have these
Yeah.
classes?" And she just explained to us everything. Like
Yeah.
sexually transmitted diseases and all this stuff, everything. She really took her time. She explained everything. And what I was surprised is how much my class, everyone kept it secret. Nobody went and said anything to anyone. So she never had any complaints, never like, this is how much even
Yeah.
us, we wanted to hear about this. Like, we kept it secret.
Yeah. Wow. I never had any of that, which I think when my first time happened, I was like, I knew you would bleed, but I was like, oh, I've gone like horse riding and I've done bicycles and stuff. Um, so I didn't think I would, and then I ended up bleeding, and it was painful. It hurt a lot for a few years, like not just that one time, but every time I had sex, it just hurt. And I thought I had probably, I could probably never have sex because it hurt. And I think it was just, sorry?
Vaginismus? I'm not so sure what it's called, but it has a name
No,
when it's.
no, it was basically just, I guess I'm just small.
Maybe you were too anxious. I don't know.
That
Like,
is also a thing because I can't stop thinking.
oh, it might be this. I like my first experience, it was kind of it was very quick. It was very disappointed. I was kind of in a rush to experience it, to be very honest. But it was my ex-husband. It was all halal. And yeah, I was kind of very disappointed, but it was extremely painful. And I've heard everyone being like, "Oh, if you're really prepared and blah blah blah, you're not gonna feel pain." It's not true. It's not true. I felt pain the first 3 times. After this, it was kind of easy.
I'm trying to hold up my phone because, yeah, I mean, yes, John, I know it's lube. It wasn't lube that was the issue.
Yeah. When
It
you're just
was,
anxious, it's just difficult.
yeah, it is just difficult. And I think a lot of it was also in my head as well. Every time I had sex, there was a lot of guilt and I felt dirty. Like, not because of the fluids or anything. I just felt quite like nudges. Like I didn't only have to go shower, I had to wash myself. Like I had to do ghusl, which is like cleaning yourself and reciting stuff. I felt like I always had to do that.
But you
But
had sex. It wasn't like in a religious, like you were not married, right? It was
no, I
boyfriend.
wasn't.
So maybe
So
that's why you feel.
yeah, probably. Yeah, no. That was absolutely it. That was absolutely it. Well, I haven't been married, so I can't say that I felt differently. But yeah, no, that was. I think we're going into sex now, which is fine. But I guess, that's the one thing, and putting this back into like dating and leaving Islam and being comfortable. I think the one thing I learned was a lot of ex-Muslims try, um, unraveling their trauma onto their partner. And if
Mm.
their partner does not share that trauma, and I'm not saying it's easy to trauma bond, it is horrible trauma bonding, but that partner who does not understand that trauma finds it really heavy to um I find it really heavy to absorb as well. Like, because we've talked about toxicity within our families, and we've talked about narcissistic parents, and how we talked about being submissive, or talked about how, for me, being possessive and jealous were good things, but they're actually not. They're quite destructive. So I think the one thing I've learned is to communicate better and to understand that relationships are not meant to give you everything. Like, relationships are a part of you, and maybe a significant part of you, and a significant, I guess, a significant, your significant other is somebody that you would be sharing quite a bit with, but they're not your everything. What do
Yeah,
you think about that? Did you feel like there were times that you were, you know, your trauma was being projected onto your partner?
mm, yes and no. Um, I was living the trauma when I was married, so I didn't project anything during this time, and I pretty much didn't really have a emotional connection with my husband. And then when I left him and I had my first boyfriend, yes, it was a lot of emotional, like trauma connection, trauma bonding, whatever you said. And it's not that I was projecting my trauma onto him. It's more like um,
You had shared
we
trauma that you're talking about?
it's like two people who had kind of the same trauma, being
Mm-hmm.
ex-Muslims and all, and they're together. They didn't have time to actually like deal with their issues,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like when you have all this trauma, it's bubbling inside you, and uh, so like on men, for example, ex-Muslim men are
Yeah.
gonna have a whole different experience than ex-Muslim women. They're probably like a lot of them, whether we like it or not, they're being taught that they're the men, they're the ones in control. So sometimes it just sticks to them, even when they
Mm-hmm.
leave Islam. They still the ones in control. They they still and a lot of times like they still play the abusive role. It happens a lot. I've even heard one time an ex-Muslim man saying that he still would prefer marrying a Muslim hijabi girl because she would be more easy to control. So it happens. It happens. And
I've actually had that similar, not a hijabi girl, but they wanted a conservative who wouldn't drink.
yeah,
And
because it's
I get that. I get that. But I think it wasn't drinking that was the problem. It was somebody else's insecurity, or ex-Muslim women also not knowing how to control their alcohol.
yeah. Once you
And
leave Islam and you go into like the haram stuff, some of them like they really don't know what they're doing. They don't know the limits anymore.
exactly.
Go crazy. And this is why I think you should always take time after you leave Islam. You should take time to do everything. Take your time to even smoke weed. Take your time to drink alcohol. Take your time into like your first relationship. Don't rush into things. Otherwise, you're really gonna suffer. Like I rushed and I suffered a lot because it happens a lot. You leave an abusive relationship and you jump into another abusive relationship and
Yeah.
you can't see it coming. You have to really like know first of all what was like abusive in the first relationship, and even like when your parents are abusive, you have to know what was abusive in their behavior with you, so that when you go into a relationship later on, you're able to see the red flags and you avoid these. But a lot of people just jump in right away. They want to experience, and it's not really about experiencing. Sometimes it's about protecting yourself from all of this stuff. I do understand people who say I want to experience, but it's not always the case. You shouldn't just jump head in. You have to take things into consideration, and your soul, your body doesn't deserve you experiencing something extremely bad that will literally break you, because abusive relationships will break you, whether it's your parents or your partner. It's gonna break you. You don't jump in right away, so you have
Yeah.
to take this into consideration. It's really important.
Yeah. I'm just gonna change to my computer, and then I want to go into more about how to recognize abusive relationships. So just give me a second.
So here we have another Zahraa. Welcome.
I don't add more quality. Okay, I am here now. I'm gonna keep my phone just in case the internet runs out because this is shit and annoying. But at least I'm here.
You wanted to know more about like the how to recognize abusive relationships.
Yeah, I think I mean I have a few of my own I guess
Red flags?
experiences on abusive relationship. But it would be interesting to understand how you see them.
Yeah.
I know you had some prep ready in front of you. Do you want to? Yeah, I know she actually came prepared, so this should be fun because I am so keen to learn. So
Yeah.
talk to me about recognizing abusive relationships.
Yeah. So first of all, I know all of this info is not coming from like anywhere stupid. It's like literally I went to a shelter. This is in French, by the way. I went to a shelter after my first husband. When I left him, I really thought he was a good man. Like I didn't see that much like mistakes in him. So when I went to the shelter and I read all of the like about abuse and all of this stuff, I realized just how much like literally my body told me to leave him, but in my head I was like, no, but I'm wrong. I shouldn't leave him. He's a good man. But when I read this, like the signs of abusive relationship, even like abusively, emotionally abusive relationship, I realized like I should listen to my body. A lot of people don't do this. You feel it when it's something bad. Something is telling you you should leave this, but you stay. So one thing that you have to take into consideration is there's something called the cycle of violence. It's I don't know if you can actually see it.
Yes,
like,
I can see it, but I have no idea what it is.
Okay, so I will try to explain. So first, it's anxiety. If you feel all the time anxiety during the relationship, it obviously means that there's something wrong. So there's tension because of him, and you feel anxiety. So for example, he's angry at something. He's gonna lash onto you. We say
lash out on you.
Lash out on you. Sorry, I'm French.
No, don't apologize.
That's my excuse. Like I'm French. And
honestly,
by the way,
my manager's English, and he couldn't pronounce mentor today, like
oh
a teacher mentor. He went like mentor, and I was like, to get your classes. Oh my god! I hope he's not listening. This was a joke. He recognized it.
I hope so. So just by the way, every relationship, toxic relationships, they start really well. The person will show you the best side of them. It's going to be extremely romantic, extremely nice. It's going to be so cheesy. You're going to feel like this is the one, you know? Like I'm never going to find someone as nice as this person, okay? I'm going to be gender neutral. It can be women, it can be men, by the way. And so first of all, it starts with like the partner, like there's tension in the relationship. The partner is going to use you to express his like anger and anything negative. He's going to use you. You're going to be the one who's going to lash out on you all the time, and you're going to be anxious all the time. So you're going to walk on eggshells around him, not to like provoke him. That's a sign that he's abusive, and you don't really know it. You're like, no, he just like this is like his thing. I better avoid these subjects. If the outcome of you talking about these subjects is him being abusive with you, it's an abusive relationship, and a lot of people don't know it.
And I guess the way I see it is people have difficult days, and that's fine. I think it's important to understand that your partner is not your punching bag, that you know you need to talk about it. And I know sometimes being heard is therapeutic, it's helpful, but you know we need to realize that sometimes our partners are going through shit, like you know, as well, even when we are going through shit. So I think it's important to express your needs and wants differently, or like
so that's the way of knowing this, because it comes as a cycle. It's a whole cycle. If it repeats itself, it means this is like you're in a dangerous place, you need to leave. But when it's like these things happen remotely, I think it's okay. Like you have a normal, healthy relationship, but then sometimes you have the silent treatment. It's just anger sometimes. So it's just like you don't know how to deal with your the quarrel that just happened. But when it's just like tension, then aggression, and then your partner justifies why he did this, and then it's like the honeymoon phase, and everything is fine, and then again you're walking on eggshells, and then again he does something like yells or attacks you or hits you, and then justifications, and then again honeymoon, and it's this cycle. This is obviously a very abusive relationship. But when it's like everything is okay, and then once in a while you have like you talk about a specific subject, like maybe your partner talked about your brother and you didn't like what he said, so you give him the silent treatment and you talk it out and everything is fine. That's not abusive. That's okay. But when it's like really heavy, and so for example here the examples I have, it's excessive anger um, outburst, I think.
Outburst.
So
Yeah,
yeah, outburst. Very like I'm translating, so like it's I need to be
that's
quick.
okay.
Yeah, and like really heavy, like the silent treatment when it goes on for like 3 days. Yeah, that's emotional abuse.
Yeah,
Intimidation. It could be even like looking at you in an intimidating way. That's
yeah.
bad. If you
I
uh,
think it's also important to verify that, like not verify, but clarify, sorry. It's important to clarify that yes, sometimes like personally when I go through anxiety and I have anxiety attacks, I lash out or I just ask for space. I think the best thing I've learned is to go like, don't like, I would actually text my boyfriend and I'm like, look, I've just had a hard day. I just need some space, or I'm going to go for a walk, or I'm going to go hang out with my friends. And I think it has helped our relationship quite a bit when I've communicated well and I think it's important to remember that with anxiety, sometimes you can't control it, even your reaction. If it keeps happening every time, then you need help for anxiety. You do need help. And I did take the help, not because of my current relationship, but I took help because generally when like this was in 2017 before I was an activist, I was just having I was just having trouble being around social circles. I would just get overwhelmed a lot. Or in some relationships I'd be angry a lot and I was like, oh my God, I don't know how to control myself. And I think relationships are fixable, but first you need to fix yourself. So sometimes people project their mental health issues onto their relationship. And that's
yeah,
where I think that is what is abusive about that relationship. I think using mental health as an excuse to abuse somebody is wrong, especially after you've recognized it a lot of times and guilty as
yeah.
charged.
This is where
I've had,
justification comes in.
yep,
When you justify it and say, "Oh, it's my mental health," you may have mental health issues, but you're just using this to just hurt your partner. That's not the point of
yeah.
you being in a relationship. You should seek help. You should do something.
Exactly. If you're not seeking help for that, because I recognize this in myself, where I was like, I had anger outbursts, and it wasn't, and like I said, the best thing I did was seek help. I actually went like, and I'm like, these are my problems, and then it was just reframing it, and that helped me quite a bit. Because I think I didn't want to be the one who was toxic in the relationship, and sometimes I feel like two perfectly amazing people can be together but not perfect for each other. And I think at that point, it's probably one of the most painful things where you're like, oh, but we are not that well, we're not that good together, but I still admire you as a person. And I've had exes like that who I'm like, I still love you as a person. You're amazing, and I have so much respect for you, but we want different things.
Mm. Yeah, that's when it doesn't work out. And like you're saying it a lot, you communicate, and communicating is really important. Like
Yeah,
when
I
you said,
think.
for example,
Sorry, go
you
on.
need your space. That's a good thing. You said it. But when in an abusive
Uh,
context, it would be like the person just suddenly you have the silent treatment. You wake up one day, the person is just not talking to you. It could be for something really small. So for my ex-husband, for example, he used to do it a lot. If I didn't wake up properly in the morning and made his breakfast and like did whatever he wanted me to do, he would be very like he would give me a weird silent treatment. uh, he would only break it to like make me feel horrible, and then he will go back to silent treatment, and it would last for days. And if I ask
Yeah.
why, I'm not sure. Maybe he's gonna lash, and then he's gonna be like, "You didn't wake up. You didn't make my breakfast today, or dinner was really late. Why do you always do this?"
Yeah.
And it's just like this is the kind of like abusive relationship when you talk together, and when he's like, if he says, like, I would have understood if he talked to me and be like, "Look, I come back, I'm really exhausted. I would have loved to like see the dinner ready, but you didn't do it, so I'm a bit upset. I think I need some space." Okay, that's understandable. But him being like, oh, closing the doors, slamming the doors, and looking at me like in a kind of hateful way,
That's
that's
manipulative as well.
yeah, it is. But that's
Especially
the
when
point.
it's repeated. Especially when it's
Yeah.
repeated a lot of times.
Mm.
And the thing is that whenever I hear people talking about toxic or abusive behavior, or when I hear people talking about negativity, I think the first thing I do is I try to analyze it within myself. So I'm like, have
Yeah,
I done this to somebody? I think you know this about me, where I've gone like, oh, am I wrong? Am I doing this? Because I feel like the one thing I can do is control my feelings. Sorry,
yeah.
I can't control my feelings. I can control my reaction to what's happening to me. And I can only be the best version of myself.
You know,
A
the
lot of,
type of people who
sorry, go on.
think like the type of people who think like you are people who lived abuse, and abusers generally, because this is like part of the cycle, they lash out on you, and then they use justification, and these justifications usually like they use this thing that you made me do this, and they project their abuse onto you. So if you're the type of person like you or even me, where you always overthink what you're doing, you always think you're the one who's wrong, and even if your partner has done like the worst thing ever, you always think maybe you've done something. That's because you've lived abuse, and you've like normalized it so much, you feel like maybe I'm the one who's wrong. So if you
Yeah,
always doubting yourself, it means like
I
this is
think
also something.
so. I've
Yeah,
I, I
it's
I've been
probably
gaslighted a lot of times. There were times when I was legit wrong and I couldn't recognize it. But somebody posted this thing. Islam also states that alcohol is haram to drink. The factor is removed which stops violence in the household. Now let me remind you, the times I've been physically abused were all by Muslims, were all because I thought I provoked them, and they had never had alcohol. They were Muslims who were praying 5 times a day. I wasn't praying,
yeah.
right?
And just by the
Stop.
way, it's
Sorry, go
not
on.
true. Alcohol will wake up something that is deep within you. If you're extremely violent when you're on alcohol, when you're drunk, it means you're inherently a violent person. It's just gonna like break the walls around this violence, and it's gonna let it out. So you just need to avoid alcohol altogether. But alcohol itself is not the reason. Like if you avoid it, it's not the reason why you're gonna be a good husband or a good wife. It's not true that only when you drink alcohol you're gonna come back home and you're gonna beat your wife. Like, as I said at the beginning, yesterday I drank 2 bottles of wine. I was with my man. Nothing happened. We had the best time. We were laughing. No hitting. Nothing. And we're
I
drunk as fuck.
love it.
It's
I
not
love it.
like it doesn't make sense to blame alcohol.
I'm gonna take that clip out. I'm gonna take that spot. I had alcohol. We didn't hit each other. Yeah, no, that is a very, very good point, Zahra. I think that is a very good point that a lot of people, and I was listening to an Islamic lecture yesterday because I was trying to point out the homophobia and whatnot. So I listened to a lot of Islamic lectures, just FYI. And this guy was like, "This is why alcohol is restricted, so you don't rape, you don't do this." And I'm like, "Oh, okay. So we are
We blame the
blaming the
alcohol.
rape on alcohol. All right, I get it. It's alcohol. It's not
Yeah.
the other person."
Aw.
And
That's
let's
so
not
bad when you
forget,
blame
le-
something outside of them. When it comes from within
exactly,
you and you
exact,
blame the bottle
no
of alcohol.
no responsibility taken. No responsibility taken. It's stupid. It's absolutely stupid. Um, so I'm gonna mute this guy. Actually, you know what? Let him stay. Um, but I guess there was no responsibility taken. But then we're talking about 434 as well, and I'm not going to go deep into it. But 434 is a lot about making women submissive to men, but also like stating that men are above women.
Mm.
That is something that didn't disturb me until after I became an ex-Muslim, because I didn't know about that verse. I had admittedly never read the Quran with translations and with tafsir. I only did it as I was doubting it. But there were a lot of logical things which is why there were a lot of logical justifications to why I left, which was a lot of hate. But I guess going back to the alcohol bit, that's a very good point, like awakening the monster inside you. So whether or not, I think alcohol is definitely a depressant. It can be drank in moderation. I would highly recommend people do it when they're. I would highly recommend people not drink alcohol when they're sad, because it just makes you sad even worse. And
or any kind of drugs,
yeah,
everything when you feel sad, don't use them.
yeah. I mean, I would really, really, be against that. And if you want to have a social drink, have one drink. Maybe stop when you're just, have one drink, have a limit when you're like, I'm not feeling well, but I want to drink, then maybe like limit yourself to one. I'm particularly good at that. Like, I'm just like, I'm not drinking, and everybody's drinking and getting drunk, and I'm just like, nah, I'm good.
Yeah, you have to be a strong will to do this. A lot of people just like, oh, I'm in a social setting, I need to drink just like them. But you really don't. You're the one who's like putting this pressure on yourself. You don't need. And if anyone is gonna judge you because you're not drinking with them, fuck them. You can just find better friends. And you're better, by the way, you're better on your own than with someone who's gonna judge you for not drinking.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like even when I was a Muslim, I had a lot of fun because I only started drinking alcohol when I was 24. So I had a lot of fun. I went out with my friends and they would drink and they were a bit annoyed, but like don't like this when they're like, oh, you're not drinking. And I get that, like, it would be nice, but then at the same time, I always have this hyper energy. So I'm always like, let's go, let's do this. Anyway, but yeah, I was going to say about the toxic relationships. So you talked about leaving Islam and then jumping into this toxic relationship. Can we go into more exploring why you felt the need to jump in? Because I have a theory that happened to me, and what were, I guess, the repercussions of it?
Because I was already in a very toxic relationship with my ex-husband, so there was no emotional connection. We never sat and talked. We never, like, I was with him 10 years, 4 years of marriage, and we had a baby, and I just stayed even longer and longer with him because I was like, I have a baby, I can't just leave him. And I was trying all the time to fix the relationship. I'm a fixer. And I had hope, but then it died. And when I left him, I was very like hungry for actual love. And then I met this guy who seemed like everything that I wanted. And he seemed very nice, very loving, but it didn't last long. It's just like at the beginning when the abuser just wants to show you that he's everything. He's gonna be so perfect, and it's gonna feel like the beginning of your relationship is a fucking firework. Everything is amazing. That's not normal. A relationship is supposed to start really slowly. By the way, if your relationship started with like fireworks and pink, you see pink everywhere, and you're just extremely happy, and it's extremely intense, the intensity itself, I would say that would be a red flag. And that was like this with the relationship that I had after my husband. And I thought I would be able to like recognize an abusive relationship, but I didn't. And he ended up like really abusing me a lot mentally, and it broke me to the point where like now if you ask me what I like I went through 2 abusive relationships, and during my life I wasn't treated properly too, so it really affected me, and in the end it just completely broke me. So I might be with someone right now and it might be for fun, but I'm not really taking it seriously, and in my heart I'm like, he's never gonna like I'm never gonna fall in love. He's never gonna fall in love. I'm worth nothing, because that was what it does to you when you're in a toxic and abusive relationship. It destroys you, your self-esteem, and no matter how many people will be like, oh, you're so pretty, you're so, I don't know, sparkling or whatever, your personality is so nice. In my head, I'm like, no, I'm not. I was abused by my ex-boyfriend, by my ex-husband. My ex-husband would like, if I try to talk to him, he'd be like, it's boring. Whatever you have to say, it's not worth my time. I'm watching something. Go away. So if it's like this all the time and you feel so worthless, and then you go into a relationship, you think like, oh, this person really loves me and he's going to give me attention. But he doesn't give a fuck about you. And you think maybe that's just him. You start giving him excuses like maybe he's just going through a phase. Maybe he's just like he's not really that much affectionate. But then you realize he's given his affection really easily to other people. And you feel like there's something wrong in you because he's not being nice to you. But in reality, there's something wrong with them because the abuser is just, you're so nice, you're so easy to just walk on that they're gonna take advantage of this. You're a prey for them. And why he's being like this with you and not with others is because, sadly enough, the others are stronger than you are. And
I
you're
was
probably, and that's
I
why
was
they're like on you. And I starting to bug. Yay. Okay. So you're the one who's disconnecting, and
One
I'm
second,
here,
I'll
right?
change my headphones. I'm sorry, I'm having terrible connection and there is nothing I can do about it. But we lost it for a while and I'm back. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear it.
Okay, sorry guys. I want to continue this because it's such an important and interesting chat.
Yeah, what were you saying? It bugged, like it cuts. You were talking. I said like
Oh
they
yeah,
prey on.
sorry. I was going to ask, but I was going to ask when you talked about, um, the person being horrible to you and nice to other people. And you're right, a lot of it has to do with women who take that shit or
Mm,
men who take that shit. Um, I think there is, because you don't realize your value and what you're worth, you're likely to just settle for less. And you think, you know
yeah,
what? This person's here. I've met him. They love me. They know me. They know my demons, and
yeah. And
they
they're like,
know
I'm
what
not
I've
worth better than this. Like I don't deserve anything better. And
sometimes.
in case you dare ask for more, like I want a bit more of affection. I want a bit more attention. They they will make you feel guilty as fuck for even asking this. They will be like, no, you're wrong. You're asking for too much. You don't deserve this. I'm already giving you everything. You're expecting way too much, and they shut you up. And you feel so bad. You feel like this is what you deserve. You shouldn't have anything more. And it's
Yeah,
this is why it also destroys you. You feel like you don't deserve anything nice. So
yeah, yeah. No, I totally get that. You're right. I feel like sometimes, and for a long time, I always felt like I had too much baggage and I was undateable. Like, who's going to accept me after being through all that ex-Muslim trauma and whatnot? But the reality is that trauma is mine. And that trauma is for me to work on myself, not for somebody to fix or to take. Somebody to accept me as, I like to think, a work in progress, and I'll always be a work in progress, is what you need. Being compassionate with somebody and understanding, okay, cool, you're growing right now. Or, okay, with my current boyfriend, he understands when I have panic attacks or when I have an anxiety spiral. So it's like, okay, you're spiraling. So a lot of times he'll just not listen to me, just, degrading myself or sometimes just talking about different things, whether it's work or anything. And um, yeah, I think there, especially when it comes to mental health, there's so many things that we need to be aware of about ourselves and if our partner has mental health issues,
mm,
because some things that, like we said, that are because of your mental health, you act like that. But if you keep acting like that without seeking any help, you have a problem. And it's important that you understand when to fix yourself and when to admit that you're wrong. It's so, so important to not
mm,
just blame the other person for your wrongdoings. And it's a
yeah,
hard pill to swallow. It's a really, really hard pill to swallow, to understand, hey, you know what? Maybe I was wrong. maybe I shouldn't have done this. And I have gone out there and apologized. And, I have like I'm not the perfect person in a relationship, but I think a lot of it comes down to, do I want to change that? Yes. Do I want to communicate better? Yes. Um, is there something I can ask for better that I am not currently getting? Um, that's something that I'm still working on. And I would recommend therapy for everyone, even if people go like, oh, but there's nothing wrong with me. I feel like people should go, people should go for therapy a few times a year, a few times a year. So people should go to therapy in a few years for a couple of months just to assess the growth, just to understand, hey, what is different? What is happening? And I think couples therapy can be really good. It's a lot of
Yeah,
people think
even
it's a
like
negative.
yeah, even in like very good relationships
Yeah,
where you feel like it's going okay. Sometimes there's stuff that's festering, and it's better to just address it, and you don't feel it, but you better just like seek counseling and therapy, even if you feel like everything is good.
yeah. I mean, I feel like there is nothing more romantic and lovable or loving than wanting to work with your partner on fixing things or on growing together. I think that
Yeah.
it's such a romantic thing to go like, hey, you know what? We're having some issues. How about we talk to a neutral party and see what we can do better? Or, we're having some massive changes in our lives, or, a miscarriage or having a baby, and postpartum depression can be a thing, and you realize that your relationship is drifting apart. I
Yeah.
feel like we should stop seeing mental health and therapy as a negative thing. I
Mm.
think that we need to address it. I think that we need to talk about it, and we need to understand that we're growing. I think if anybody is at a position where they're like, oh, this is the best version of me, and this is what I am, I feel like that is so limiting and suffocating. Because I don't know, maybe personally, I've always been a person that wants more, that wants to grow, that wants to change. Um, I don't know. What do you think about couples therapy?
I've never had it, and that's the problem for some people. It's just like it's almost impossible to have. So my first boyfriend and I were in a long distance relationship, and my ex-husband, we never really thought about it. And even if we did, it's not like in a Muslim context. My ex-husband was gonna like want to do counseling. He's probably gonna be like, let's talk to a sheikh, to a religious leader. That's it. That's like religious. I mean, couple therapy or counseling. That's what it is for him. But then with my ex-boyfriend, we kind of had like a semi long distance relationship, and seeking couple therapy wasn't that easy. And for people who don't have enough money for this, I understand also why, yeah, like it's not really available for everyone. But if one day you have enough money, I would tell you just do it, and
Yeah,
try to also find like therapists or people that you can just talk to, social workers. They're still gonna help you, because they're kind of trained for at least helping you a bit, and maybe they can one day find someone like for you, like a therapist that's
yeah,
gonna be very cheap. We never know. So I'm lucky. I'm in Canada. When I left my ex-husband, I went to a shelter. The therapists are for free, and as long as I go to a shelter, I can still talk to these therapists for life, forever,
yeah,
for free. Like I can call them. It could be in the middle of the night. If I have an anxiety attack, I can call them, and they're gonna help me. But
yeah,
if you don't have the options that I have, you're gonna need to work toward it. Like nothing's gonna come to you. You're gonna have to work to get it, to fix yourself and everything. You can't just sit back and expect that you're gonna fix yourself, or your relationship. And I also wanted to add, if your partner is unwilling to go for counseling, uh, that should be a red flag. And if they tell you like, no, I don't need it, you need therapy, and it's not like couple therapy, it's just like your therapy, and you need to fix yourself. because you're the reason why the relationship is just falling apart.
Or there's nothing
That's
wrong with me.
that's a big problem. Like my ex-boyfriend did that with me. Like he's the one who wronged me. I'm not gonna say exactly what he did, but but he really wronged me. And then after this, when I had like anxiety, panic attacks and stuff like this, he would be like, "That's your problem.
That's your problem.
You need to fix yourself, and it's all you. It's all your insecurities." When he was the one just
Hands off.
he's just fucking around and do whatever he wants.
Yeah.
And whenever I feel anxiety or like angry or extremely depressed, it's got nothing to do with him. It's all about me.
Yeah. Which I think, yeah, there's a big difference between taking accountability and self-blame. There's a massive difference. One of them is I guess one of them is an informed approach of understanding this is something that I could do better at, even if, you are the reason for something going wrong. But I think instead of blaming yourself for all of it, taking accountability is
You're
important.
a couple. You obviously don't share all
Exactly.
the problem. Like it's both of you. It takes two hands to clap. And
Yeah.
like my trick would be like, if you feel you're blaming yourself, okay, change whatever you feel needs to be changed. But if you change this and you see the actual, like you see yourself changing your behavior, but the response that you get from your partner is still the same, the problem is them.
Yeah.
So you
I
either
think that
leave, they're not willing to fix themselves or the relationship. You either leave or you try as much as you want to like fix the relationship. But I would honestly encourage people to leave. If it's abusive altogether, the people are never going to change, to be very honest, or it's going to take so long for them, because an abuser is someone who has been abused themselves, to be honest. They were victims also. Let's not dehumanize them. They're also victims. They had their struggles. My ex-husband was like this. He's the older guy, a boy and older man in his household, so he was expected to have a perfect lifestyle, to have the most exemplary, I don't know, wife. And there was a lot of pressure on him. So every time I would misbehave, it would reflect on him and he would take a lot of blame from society. And with my ex-boyfriend too, he was heavily abused. He's an ex-Muslim too. So yeah, they take this with them and they bring this abuse into the relationship and they end up abusing you. And this is why they do this. It's inside them. It's something that is wrong with them. They need to fix it too. So I'm not saying like, oh, you should be understanding with them. You should accept their behavior. No, you should maybe forgive if you feel like they really want to change. Maybe if they change, if they're trying to. And if you feel like it's constant, like they tried to change, for example, if they have outbursts where they're really angry and they take it up on you and whether it's like hitting you, whatever, if you want to stay in this relationship and you want to work on it and your partner just stops hitting you forever, that's a good sign that he actually wants to change, or she. I'm sorry if I'm always saying he. But if you feel like your partner just like he's trying to stop hitting you, but then after like 1 month he started again, and then he says, "I'm sorry, I'm gonna stop," and then again he starts like something happened and he hits you again. He's never gonna stop. He's never gonna change. He's just using this cycle to hook you, to make you feel like, oh, I'm gonna fix myself one day. Everything was good until you kind of make me feel angry and you provoked me. So you should just not provoke me, and that's it. It's gonna be better. If that's the type of change you're getting, fuck this partner. Just leave them. Honestly, they're not trying to change. They're just like feeding on you who believe in them, and you're just sorry, but you're just an easy prey. When you're in a abusive relationship, you're an easy prey, and that's you believing that you don't deserve any better, and you stay there. You excuse behavior that should not be excused. You allow it to happen. If you actually see the behavior disappearing completely, yeah, that's a good sign. But if it repeats itself, no, that's not a good sign. That's actually the cycle of violence. The tension, the aggression, then they justify it, the honeymoon phase, and then it starts all over again. It can happen in one day. It can happen in a week. It can happen in like a month. It can happen like an hour. And then you have like a nice honeymoon phase. But if it makes you feel really bad, if you, when they justify their behavior, they justify it by saying that you're the one to blame and it's not their fault. They're trying to change, but it's not their fault because you're provoking them. Then it's a bad relationship. You should just leave it.
Yeah, I think there are a couple of things with what you just said. One, I'm so proud of you for talking this way because it's so nice to hear you coming from coming from that background, being abused, and talking about it. It's powerful. It's strength. So thank you. And two, I think a lot of times we underplay or undermine um, abusive women,
Yeah,
physically abusive women, because they're not talked about. Because men are meant to be strong. Um, Men are meant to be. Men shouldn't complain. They shouldn't be weak. That's what we're told, right? That's what we're told. But I actually know some men who have been abused by women, and not just like once or twice or when, she threw something. This is like scratches or, you know,
yeah,
like horrible bruises happening every day or every
yeah,
week or quite often. And the other thing was um, you're right about the whole, like, weakness. Like a lot of times women specifically who are abused tend to stay with their abuser because um, there is a thing, I think it's a police stats where even if they report the abuser, they go back to their abuser because there's a lot of shame that comes out of it.
yeah. It happens a lot.
Um,
It's brown
exactly.
people. And the shelter
Yeah.
I went to, I've known a lot of women, brown women, who went back after a while. Like literally, one woman went to the shelter. She stayed for a long time with her kids, and her partner, she was Moroccan. Her partner used to hit her and her kids, and she escaped. She finally found a place. She went there, and after like 2, 3 months, she went back to her husband because the kids missed their dad, and he promised he's gonna fix himself. And he went to talk to her family, his family, and he said he's sorry. He's gonna change. He's gonna be a better man. And when I heard this, I remember telling the woman, but he's never gonna change. He's just using her kindness and she's gullible to believe him, first of all, and she went back to him. And it happens so often. I see, especially brown women, actually going back to their abusive house partners. It's also because of the pressure of society, the fact that they have kids, and it's not easy when you're a woman and you live on your own and you have the kids with you.
Also, Stockholm Syndrome.
Yes, yeah,
People tend to love their abusers. People tend to
mm,
accept it. I think it's
yeah,
important to remember as well that, with ex-Muslims as well, men or women, they don't just leave behind all their abusive behavior that they were taught and normalized. So internalized misogyny, like, thinking, blaming yourself for being a
yeah,
woman. And then also I have met ex-Muslim men who are misogynistic or sexist. And I'm not saying that we should just disregard them. I definitely think that's a problem that we need to address and we need to talk about because this isn't just common within Muslims. This is common within a lot of your upbringing that, yes, Islam plays a massive factor in when you were in a patriarchal society where women are made to be submissive to men. And
yeah.
it's a whole cycle of, like, that goes down generations as well. And it is approved by, but not just by religion, but also a lot of the religious culture that um, comes alongside it. And people keep trying to distinguish between religion and culture, but the reality is it doesn't matter what you try to pick and choose. The whole
Yeah.
thing comes as a package. And when people keep saying, "Oh, hijab is a cultural thing," and I'm like, hang
Not really.
on, people wear it differently. You're right. It is a culture. It's an Islamic culture, and culture and religion go hand in hand so well that I don't see the point of like distinguishing it and go like, oh, but that is Islam, that is this, instead of like actually specifically fixing the problem. And I feel like so I guess we're just going to go into our ending remarks. I feel like a lot of ex-Muslim women, men, when it comes to dating, I think they should first work on themselves.
Yeah.
Talk about your trauma, understand yourself better. And if you're going into a relationship, I know I personally have guards up, and I would say maintain them to a mid-level, not too high, but it's okay to be vulnerable. Not everybody out there is going to attack you. You just need to be better in your judgment for who you trust people, even with your friends. I think because you haven't been around a lot of men and you've been told that this is what men do or this is what women do or they're only going to use you for things.
Mm.
I guess, don't be ignorant about your gut feelings, but also um, don't stop yourself from love. I mean,
Yeah.
I think I would say I would rather love and be hurt than to have never loved.
I would say I'd rather not love, so I don't get hurt. I was hurt a lot, and I don't need that
I,
anymore. But I'm just stupid
I,
enough to jump into another relationship. I mean, I'm not the
yeah,
best example, but I know this guy I'm with right now, and everything is going okay. And because I'm not emotionally involved, which wasn't the case with like my ex-partners, I was emotionally involved from the beginning. Like I started
yeah,
developing feelings, and then it was like, do you want to be mine? And then, like when you're already emotionally involved and you see red flags, you're ready to forgive them. But now I'm not emotionally involved. If I see a red flag, I feel like I could easily leave. And so that's one thing. Sometimes when you're really like you're in love, you're deeply in love because abusers are good at making you feel like they're the best in the world, and you love them so much. So that makes it even harder to leave the person.
yeah.
And there's other, yeah, go
Sorry,
on.
go on.
Oh, you put a
I was just
question.
going to say, I
Yeah,
wanted to address this comment. There are men who committed suicide due to abusive women. Absolutely. So
yeah, it has.
anything that I've said right now goes bi-directional, even though we're women talking about men, because that's the
Yeah,
relationships we've had. It is definitely bi-directional. Um, so change our he's to she's, except for, I guess,
yeah. I'm
multitasking,
sorry, I keep
because
saying he because
no, that's
obviously
because,
I'm a woman. I will
yeah, I
talk
know,
about
but
my experiences, but it does happen with
yeah.
um women can
And
be extremely sensitive.
okay, if we're not emotionally involved, how will that be called as love? People define love differently, but people don't have to love to be together with somebody. And I'm not saying
Yeah,
relationship. I
yeah,
mean, a lot of times we just look down on sexual encounters or like sexual or flings or even just having a friends with benefits or something. We need to stop. We need to stop
value any other
conflating.
emotion that's positive. It's not only about love, you know. Love
Exactly.
doesn't mean anything. Look at this. Like I was in love with my ex-husband. I was in love with my ex-boyfriend, and it didn't do any good to me. I'm not in love with this guy I'm with. But I'm doing great. Like we're having fun. He's never once abused me. He's never once said anything that hurts me. He's on the contrary, he's really nice. He's really respectful of my boundaries. I'm always very surprised when I see that he remembers some stuff that I'm not comfortable with and he doesn't even do it. So that's a good thing. My exes didn't care about me. It was all
Yeah.
about them and I love them. Love is not the only thing. When you're in love, you're blinded by love. When you're not in love, you can focus on like your actual happiness. You can be like, I'm
Hmm.
not in love with this guy or this woman, but I'm having fun. I'm being respected. I'm like all of these good things. It's not only about like feeling love.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with the whole it's not only about feeling loved, but I also think that sometimes, yes, love can blind people, but I think that is an immature, that is not immature, but that is not a healthy love. That is not a healthy relationship in general. I think, I think to me personally, and what I've learned with love is I love people differently. Like different people have played a different role in my life. And with my current relationship, I love and I'm not blind. And I feel like that came to me only later on. Like I love and I'm so alert about things. I'm like, oh, I've picked this up about me. I've picked this up about them. This is what we need to talk about. This is what we need to discuss. And usually people associate love with pain every time.
Mm.
And this comes from a lot of TED Talks. So this is not just me. I am not any expert or anything. So please look at your content and I hope it helps. But people associate love with pain so many times, and it's not love that's causing you pain. It's a lot of it's being vulnerable and not it's being vulnerable that you are and somebody else who is abusive that causes you pain, or somebody else takes advantage of you.
I would
Um,
uh, saying love and struggle together instead of love and pain. I'm against when you say love and pain. Love and struggle that could be together because
yeah.
you can struggle as a couple. You get older together, you discover new things, you change, you never stay the same. And also, yeah, you struggle in life, like job, money, buying something, deciding together on very important life decisions. So yeah, you struggle, but you need to like be able to like pass through all these struggles in a kind of non-abusive way, in a very peaceful way.
Mhm.
You still feel the love. But if you feel pain, I don't think that's the same as struggle. I think it's a bad thing.
Yeah. Don't you think that women are more emotional? I think on average, women are more emotional, and I say this because science says it.
Yeah,
But I
but it's
think,
not a bad thing.
yeah, that's not a bad thing, absolutely. And attachment works differently for women, biological women and biological men.
Mm. There's
Um,
also something that people don't take into consideration is how much we pick partners that fit our personality a lot. And
yeah,
you have very emotional women, and then you have like women who are very not emotional at all. And these women, a woman who's very emotional, will obviously pick a man like, let's say it's like the standard. It's she's an emotional woman. She's gonna pick a guy who's not emotional, who's probably macho, so she's going to find someone who fits her. Someone who's not emotional, she's probably going to pick a man who is emotional because she's never going to be able to be with someone who's exactly like her. It's uh, like a couple, this is how it works. You need to like fit one another. And you can pick someone who's kind of like you, but you're always going to pick someone like, for example, the emotional thing. If you're someone who's emotional, believe me, you're going to pick someone who's level headed. If you're level headed, you're probably going to pick someone who's emotional. Because if you're both level headed, it's not going to end up properly. If you're both emotional,
I
it's also not going to end up. There's going to be a lot of drama.
I am very level-headed and very emotional as well in my relationship. And
So,
Craig is just like so mellow. And it's just like, oh, okay. And I'm like,
so see, you're gonna find someone who fits this personality that you have.
yeah.
No matter where
Uh,
you stand, you're gonna find. So it's not a problem. You have women who are emotional, men who are emotional, some people who are level-headed, and others not. And it's gonna, it's not a problem.
yeah.
So
Yeah. So, okay, so one person said that our views were based on women talking, obviously. That is correct. I'm happy to have a man on, and I think I know somebody in mind for maybe doing like a duo and talking to him. But no, please feel free to interrupt. Throw your opinions out there without being condescending because I will block you. Um, and no, it's fine. It's about our experiences. The idea was also like to talk about what we have learned and seen differently, and obviously try answering your questions not in an expert level, but in a more perspective level. Um, um, when we were talking about men and women being, um, I guess men being emotional and Saria,
I think
uh,
it's not men are emotionally weak. Men are just not always taught how to deal with their emotions. So
yeah.
that's, that's why it's
This was a funny comment. Take away a man's PS4 controller and you will see how emotional men get. That is me.
that's, that's
That is me.
actually
It's
true.
why that
My
is
ex
me.
was a
I've
gamer who would lash on me whenever he loses in his game, or like if something's not working right, I'm the one who I don't know why. Like Anyone who's actually addicted to something to the point where like they lash onto you just for like you took it away, fix that.
This is why I never owned a console because I felt like I would always like get really
Playing.
obsessed. And then when I lose, I just get really mad. Not at the person, I'm like, ah, or like when I'm playing racing, I'm actually like moving with the thing and I'm like, I'm just gonna race you.
Like I
Um,
understand this, but like I have I do play, but like I have a small Nintendo DS, and I play on it. I'm really into it. I don't know, you've probably seen like my profile picture on what is it called, Twitter. In the background you see Mario. I'm a big Mario fan, and I
yeah,
have a lot of Mario games. And I'm playing, you don't want to disturb me. That's something else. It's not like if I lose and then I turn to my partner, there I'm gonna lash out on them. No, it's not gonna happen this way. But
yeah,
I'm probably gonna feel it. I'm probably gonna be yelling if I lose. That's it happens. That's
yeah.
not.
Yeah, I think this is a great way to break stereotypes and like, Zahra's contribution to being emotional, and women with gaming and taking away PS4, which is great. Uh, Zahra, Mars said, remind him never to challenge you to Mario Kart. I think he was talking to you because I'm not a Mario Kart fan.
I'm sorry. Well, what
Um,
was the?
it says Mars is amazing, by the way. You should go on his podcast. Remind me to never challenge you to Mario Kart.
I'm good. You can't beat me on Mario Kart. You can't.
I am horrible at Mario Kart. Yeah, no. I think I like Street Fighter games or first person shooting games because I'm always like focused, like not really focused, but like I really like intense games.
I'm more obsessed with
People,
Mario. I even have like all the dolls: Mario, Luigi, Princess Peach. I have Bowser. Like I say, I buy this for my kids, but I like
yeah,
just like looking at them and having them. And if he breaks one of them, I'm like, you don't break it, and I buy again. I'm like, I want to have them in my house. Like this is how obsessed I am.
nice.
I even have a magazine
Um,
with like,
Zahra,
oh
do
no,
you have a YouTube channel? Does she have a backstory?
I
So
have like one
Zahra,
video I did do, but I didn't go like into detail. So you probably don't know like what happened. I left my ex. I went to a shelter and then another shelter. And oh,
yeah,
when I went to the first shelter, because he followed me, my ex-husband followed me to the first shelter, and he stalked me. He found out where I was, so I needed to go be relocated to another shelter. You cannot be in a shelters for women are secret. You cannot know where a shelter is, especially when you escaped an abuser. So he discovered where I was, and I need to be relocated to another shelter. And he was like, when I was talking on the phone with him, and the point where we were, because I have my kid and we're supposed to meet, so sometimes they get the kid. It was like, why did it change? Like the meeting point. I was like, because I was relocated, because you followed me and they saw you on the security camera. And it was like, that's your problem. That you put yourself in this situation. You're gonna go somewhere. Like he blamed this on me, even though like he's the one who followed me. This is how abusive some people get, and that's nothing compared to a lot of things he's done. I can't even say more than half of what he's done. He's still the father of my kids.
yeah. I guess with Zahra's story, she's been on my channels. If you go Life After Islam with Zahra with is it a double A? I still don't know because on my phone I've spelled it as one A.
It's two A at the end.
Okay, cool.
Zahra,
Um, yeah,
Zahra. This is the way you
Zahra.
pronounce. Or you can
I
just
know.
say Zara. Too difficult, or I
Yeah, but
accept
then
either.
like I can't distinguish between me and you, even if I'm the one calling you,
Then
because
call
then
me
I'm like
Seeds.
seeds of doubt. I used to play not Call of Duty, Counter-Strike, and we all had usernames, and I would call people by their usernames, like my friends by their usernames. So
Yeah, I think it's.
basically, when yeah, I would call people by their usernames.
I have friends. I
With
have like long-time friends. They still call me Seeds. They've never called me by my name.
wow,
Yeah, it's not a
yeah,
problem. It's so cool, And I call them by their nicknames too.
yeah, I don't
I wanted,
know.
by the way, to do something just for the people who, that's like an exercise that I had at the shelter to um, help me with like stay or leave in a relationship. And uh, that's something that really helped me because I was so hesitant to actually like, this is the exercise. Wait, my God. Okay, so it's like the reason why I want to leave, the reason why I want to stay, and all the reasons that I want to leave. And you can see that I didn't even
Yeah.
have a place to write. It went down like here.
Yeah.
This is how much I wanted to leave. And if you can afford to have a therapist or something like this, and you're doubting if you should leave or stay, make a list of what is making you stay in this relationship. So for me, I had like, even if I didn't want to be on my own. If I leave my husband, I wouldn't be with anyone. And I remember like how hard it was to sleep on my own the first time when I left to the shelter. And every time I would see him, like when it's his time to have my son, and I would see him and he would come and give me hugs, I would just I would let it happen because I was just so hungry for this affection that he usually never really gives me. But this time, like I want you back,
Weren't
so I'm
there.
gonna do my best to get you. So that
Yeah.
like that was one of the reasons I wanted to stay. That I knew that if I left him, I would lose my family, which happened. I knew that my son was really happy with us together, and when we're together, my son would always be like, "Why can't you go back to daddy?" So that was like a big
How do you deal with that?
that was before, but now he like with time he accepted it. I'm from a divorced parent, so I know that you whether you like it or not, you're gonna accept it. You're gonna learn how to live
I'm
with time.
I'm going to put you in touch with my brother because he might need some advice from you.
Brother?
My brother, yeah, he might need some advice. So he's just recently separated, and
Oh,
they're all tiptoeing around my niece who is 12 and 13, really smart.
uh,
I think it would be nice for you two to chat.
yeah. It's a difficult situation when you're in a relationship. You want to leave and you have kids because you have to you take their feelings into account. And my ex-husband used to play with the I'm a mom, so obviously my son's feelings were really important. So when he's like, I feel so bad for my kid. Why did you do this? You broke the household. You broke the family. And he would tell me how his son would sometimes cry for me at night when he was with him. And he was like, you should be together again. I was like, I don't want to. Stop using my son's emotions against me. That's a
Hmm.
big thing that happens sometimes when you leave. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's problematic. But kids are gonna learn. Like now, I've done my best to keep my ex in the picture. He still has like half custody. We have shared custody, and he
Mhm.
sees my son. He has 3 days for him, 4 days for me. Sometimes if I wanna, like, I tell him to keep him one more night, or he's like, can you keep him one extra week? I do, and it's okay. Like we trying to fix this, but at the beginning he was very much using this against me. But now my son is accepting this. He's happy to have like two houses. He's happy when he sees his dad and he comes back to my place. He stopped telling me
Yeah.
that he wants us to be together. He's accepting it, and it's been like 1 year that I left, 1 year and a half.
That's nice. That's really
Yeah,
nice that he is at a young age comprehending all of that.
yeah.
Anyway, I should end this because I'm starving. Um, thank you so much for coming, and I'll edit the first 15 minutes of this video.
Yeah, I need
Um,
to.
yeah, and maybe
I
we'll
will. I
cut
will
them out.
try. Like, I will try all
Sorry.
the things that I said. The papers that I have.
Yeah, I
I
was
will try
going
to
to say,
post
are
them on
you
YouTube,
able to are you
on
able to
Twitter.
I'll get you to download an app where you can like draw them out and like type them out and make it more graphic. Probably
Okay.
easier, like putting it boxes and stuff, like just like Word, Microsoft Paint or something.
That would be
Um,
great. I could translate
yeah,
them.
yeah. So I will show you an app that is a lot easier to like draw
Yeah.
and whatnot. And it would be
Yeah,
nice
because they
to
have a lot
actually,
of really helps you with like dealing with abusive partners, and I can even go back to the shelter and ask them for the actual like this book about it's a booklet. Well, it's about la violence conjugale, which means like uh, abusive marriages, whatever it's called, like abusive relationships in a romantic context, and
yeah,
it talks really about everything. So I will
yeah.
ask for like the English version of it. They have it, and I will take a lot of things from there, and I will try to help people as much as I can. Like if you want any advice, I'll try to help.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And guys, you can follow Zahraa on Twitter on with her ID on the screen, Seeds of Doubt 3. She is on Facebook.
I'm on Facebook, but even Facebook, Twitter, they're both private. I will only accept people that I like on Facebook. I will accept people that I know on Twitter, and on Twitter, I will
Okay.
only accept people that I like. They have their account. It's been like a long time ago, and they
Okay.
are actually not like. It may be someone from my family. It may be someone like I don't want it to. I don't want this person to follow me.
Yeah.
So
If you
this is
need to
where
reach her, yeah, if you need to reach her, let me know and I'll shoot her a message. So,
yeah.
or
I
if
need
you have
to
any
know who's
questions,
following.
yeah, I mean, if you have any questions that needs to come through me, there's a support corner section below. Post your questions and I will pass it on to Zahraa if you need her to answer anything specifically. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Sorry about the first 15 minutes. I will cut that out in the video. And then hopefully make this shorter. I think this was a lovely segment. Maybe next time we should focus more on the sex part of it and just what we were talking about on the chat. I think it'll be important to actually have 4 girls talk about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you so much, everybody. Bye.